Welcome back to the Sounds Like Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Deborah Henne, and I'm here with returning guest, Dan Portik. Dan Portik is a seasoned professional whose journey has been shaped by his diverse passions and wide ranging skills. He grew up in the rural outskirts of Cleveland, Ohio, and his deep love for music propelled him forward and eventually led him to develop a profound understanding of sales and marketing. With over 3 decades of experience as a successful business owner and steadfast commitment to his Christian faith, Dan has honed his expertise in effectively managing marketing and video production companies. Throughout his career, he has achieved measurable success through advertising and video production services. His abilities have garnered attention from major corporations worldwide, seeking his guidance in developing marketing strategies that deliver tangible and measurable results. So, recognizing the value of sharing knowledge, he has ventured into the world of authorship, co-authoring and authoring a series of impactful books. His published works have earned widespread acclaim for their ability to empower readers with invaluable insights into sales, marketing, and online negotiation. Notably, his collaboration with esteemed sales trader Tom Hawkins resulted in the creation of the best-selling book, Fill Your Funnel. Additionally, Dan and his team recently produced their first full-length movie about the life and times of Tom Hawkins called Master of Sales. In his latest manuscript, The Secret Online Door, Dan provides a comprehensive blueprint of successful online techniques he has skillfully employed throughout his career. By delving deep into his strategies, Dan reveals how he has effectively reached and negotiated with individuals of many levels of status. Embracing his proven methods presents readers with the opportunity to unlock new possibilities and achieve unparalleled success in today's ever-evolving digital landscape. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you for that outstanding, auspicious uh, um, description there. It was great.
So I would love to hear more about your journey into sales and marketing,
Mhm.
because that certainly is quite an area where I would imagine you would need to learn some overcoming strategies for yourself personally that you can then bring and transfer into the marketplace.
Right. Yeah. For sales and marketing. Yeah. I mean, over the years, I've I've run the gamut from being a brand new salesman, making every possible mistake I could to really getting comfortable with it over the years. And, I've had some great opportunities to work with some of the best people in the industry, and learn from them. I think the whole key behind sales is really learning and understanding your customer, and empathy, is very important. And it's been a great journey for me. It's one of those things that I'm learning every day, and I always try to keep it that way.
Absolutely. So, and I was thinking, with sales, yeah, there's a measure of understanding the person, there's a measure of understanding yourself. So, if somebody, maybe they're just not naturally strong in the area of empathy and understanding another person. Is there something that you would suggest to them that they could try to strengthen that emotional muscle, so to speak?
Yes. I would first say become a good listener. More than anything, less talking and more listening is the best way to understand a customer and bring the wall down for the most part. Empathy is a great thing, and that can be learned. It's but the only way you learn that is by listening and not talking. So I would say that's probably the most important thing.
And I think, too, when it comes to listening, so many of us naturally are trying to think of what we want to say next. And I think that one of the hardest things with learning to listen is to quiet your own voice in your head and
Yes.
really tune in to what the other person is saying.
Yeah, there's a difference between hearing and listening. And many people just hear what's going on and their mind's going 1,000 miles an hour in different directions. And you really have to focus on and the person that's in front of you, and or persons, depending on who it is or what's going on. And really listen to what they're saying and try to understand, put yourself in their shoes best you can.
Absolutely. And I think, too, part of empathy is learning to understand body language. Now, I've
Yes.
been made aware by certain family members that when I'm tired, I look like I'm either sad or mad.
Yes.
And sometimes I'm like, I don't understand. I'm just tired. I'm not mad. I'm not sad. So,
Hmm.
how can we kind of learn to bridge that divide on both ends? One on our end, understanding the other person's body language, and then vice versa, saying, what am I doing that's putting off that feeling for somebody else, and how can I tune into that, and what can I adjust?
Sure. Well, the very first thing you need to do is smile. And what really shocks me, I mean, it just absolutely shocks me, is how many people on LinkedIn, their profile picture is serious. And I think it has something to do with other countries. I don't know what it is, their traditions or whatever when it comes to sales, but they almost always, when I look at someone from another country, they're frowning or just angry, like they want to fight you almost, it's not approachable. One of the most important things is to be approachable in sales, and that starts with a smile. I find that a lot with when we're interviewing people. Being a video production company, we interview a lot of people, and they'll get on camera and they're focused on what they're doing. They're looking at the screen or a teleprompter, and they're just like this, really serious. And I tell them, I said, you really need to smile more, because smiles really make you approachable. And they said I was smiling. They don't even know they're not smiling. So, that's kind of step one when it comes to, any type of building rapport with people, things of that nature. So I'm sorry, continue. What was the other part of the question?
I was saying, how can we bridge that divide with what the other person, or how we read the other person?
Yes. Well, body language is important on the other end of that, but I think many cases the person on the other end of the table is going to mimic your actions. So if you're frowning, they're automatically going to put that proverbial wall up. But if you're smiling, that really helps to bring the wall down and make you approachable, so they can communicate with you. Another good thing to do is to ask questions. So instead of just listening, maybe, guide the conversation a little bit with, like, how are you today? How's your day going? Is there anything in particular that, you're interested in with our product or service? How could this benefit you? Or are there some things that you would like to see make, have this thing work well for you? So asking questions, I think, will help bring that wall down, and it will show the other person on the other end of the phone or the screen or in person that you really do care about them and what they're doing.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's key, is showing value to
Yeah,
that other person is
right.
really key, something that I think as a society we can really kind of lean into.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And it's so
I think
hard too, because most people are all, the quotas, they got things. There's a great book out there. I actually had the author on my podcast a week ago. It's called The Go Giver, and it's actually a series. And the author, one of the authors, is named Bob Berg. He's a partner with another gentleman. Wildly successful book, sold millions and millions of copies, and it talks about how, instead of being a go-getter in sales, you want to be a go-giver. And that goes anywhere from talking to a customer to any vendors. Everybody you talk to, you treat nicely, and it will come back to you, because everybody knows 250 people.
right.
So that helps, that on an average.
So when we talk about showing value to somebody else, what are some practical tips that we can use? Because I think it starts with a heart. Because we can kind of put on a facade, but eventually people kind of see through that facade. So,
Hmm.
what are some things that you would suggest somebody do to kind of dig deep into their own heart, so that it's coming from a very genuine place? So it's not, we're not like looking for that boomerang, so we can really be a go giver, not a go getter, and we're
Yeah.
giving just to get. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. It's a very good question, and it's a little difficult to answer, but I think one way is to step back and take a breath before you go into a meeting, and or go online and look at. Here's an example. I go and look at everybody I talked to, almost everybody. For you, I did, for our initial thing, I went on your pages, I looked at who you are, what you're doing. This was on our first podcast. And I do that with everyone. So a great place to go is to Facebook and just find the person on Facebook and see what they're all about. If you can go into a meeting or a conversation knowing a little more about the person on the other end, you'll feel more comfortable with asking questions, and you won't be blindsided by anything that, well, I like this politician, whatever, to stay away from those kind of things. So that, again, keeps that wall down. And that's ultimately what you want to try to do.
Absolutely. And I think part of it too is digging down deep for our own self-confidence.
Yes.
Um, and you
Yes.
talked about that kind of in the beginning where you had to come into that place of gaining more confidence in yourself. Because I think that if we're not confident in ourselves and seeing the treasure that God put in us, it's
Yeah.
harder to see the treasure that God put in somebody else. And it's not coming from a
Right.
place of pride, but coming from a place of, you know what? I am wholly loved, blessed, and created by God. And so is that other person. And I can really value the treasure that God made that person to be.
Right. And one of the big things is sin gets in the way. It just does, and you can't get around it. And you have to. Well, you can get around it in a way if you pray and try and ask for forgiveness. But I think that bogs a lot of people down. The fact that whatever it may be, you have sin in the world, and that, I think, knowing that you're always forgiven, and you are, you know once you believe in God and you talk to God, he wants to communicate with you. Jesus wants to communicate with us. That will help create that inner peace. And so no matter what, that, there's that inner peace in you.
Absolutely. Now, I want to go back to something you said all the way in the beginning. And you
Hmm.
say you first started out in sales, I was making every mistake in the book. Now, sometimes people will do that and they'll let that derail them and they'll stop and they'll say, well, I tried that and it didn't work for me. So,
Yeah.
what is something that you did to dig in and say, you know what, that was a mistake, but instead of letting that derail me, I can build on that and become better?
Right. So early on, I had two mentors that I listened to all the time. One was Tony Robbins, and I think his first tape I listened to was the Giant Within You, I think is what it was called. And I listened to that, and I'm like, it just hit with me. It was like, wow. Okay, he was just starting out. I was just starting out. He had his first tape out, and I'm listening to this, and it was like, wow, this is this is me right here. And I'm watching this guy that's really successful at it. And the other one was Tom Hopkins. And Tom Hopkins, I've listened to his tapes. How I did it is, after I listened to the first one with Tony Robbins, I had this fire inside me, this ardent fire, desire to do something. And I knew nothing about sales. So I literally went in the phone book and went, okay, I'm going to be a health club membership representative. And
Mhm.
I walked in and I just went in there not knowing anything about it, full of whatever. And the guys I think I was actually trying to sell him Amway when I went in. It was really weird. I said, want to do this. And we were talking, and he was the manager of the a back wall at the time. It's a local chain here in Cleveland, was. And he says, you know what? How would you like to work here? And I'm like, you know what? Okay, I'm not going to say no. So when I joined that health club, they taught me a little bit about sales, but then we got into the book for Tom Hopkins, which was like also a very large thing at the time, number one bestseller, How to Master the Art of Selling. And they actually went through a 6-week course in their facility and went through piece by piece. So to answer your question, I think one of the things that you need to do is find mentors, find someone that's successful at what you're doing already, and emulate them, and learn. It's so easy, not so easy, but it's a lot easier now because you can get online, you can find who these people are, the ones that are successful, truly successful. A lot of fake ones out there. And really, reach out to them, talk to them. I mean, Tom Hopkins, I just, after being in sales for some time, I just reached out to him on LinkedIn, and that started my journey with him. And I got to know him, and it became a quite an interesting journey from there.
It
So
sounds
yeah,
like it. I mean, from your bio, you've done a bit of work together. Can you tell
yeah,
us more about the projects and the work that you've done together?
sure, yeah. Well, same situation. I reached out to him on LinkedIn, and we talked about. I said, look, I'm taking your sales techniques and I'm doing them online. You were doing them in person. I'm finding a way to do them online. Let's write a book together. And it was really not arrogant, but I was like scared to death when I did this. It's all in typing, because he's got 25 books out, mega trainers, trained 5 million people. So a week goes by, didn't hear anything. I'm like, I probably fell on deaf ears. And he emails me back and he says, hey, I got to tell you, I like the concept. Reach out to my vice president. She'll go through the whole thing. And if it's interesting, we'll get back to you. So I sent my little information to her, and month goes by. I didn't think anything of this. And she emails me back. She goes, we're interested. So the next step in this, we'd like to write the book. I'm like, I'm like flabbergasted.
Yeah.
So she goes, just, I want you to do a brain dump. I'd like you to type everything you can on this subject that you're talking about and send it to me. We'll do the rest. I'm like, wow. So I wrote like 20,000 words. I just kept typing, type, 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 type. Made no sense to anybody else but me and anyone in sales. Sent it to her. Another couple of weeks go by. Gets back to me and she says, I just want to let you know, we found a publisher that wants to publish this and they're ready to go right now. So I'm like, whoa, I just got thrown into the fast lane right away. And she goes, don't worry about, there was no AI back then. She's like, don't worry about the writing of it. We're going to take it. Tom's going to put his parts in. We're going to take yours and we're going to go back and forth a couple of times. We'll write it. She goes, we'll take everything you have. We're going to write it. We'll put it through our team. They wrote the whole thing. I went in, put my parts in, took about 8 or 9 months, and it went out, put it out, published it, and it became a bestseller in like 2 weeks. I was like, all right, so now I'm an author. It's really bizarre. So it was just strange how the whole thing worked. And then after that, I said, there's some other things I think we should do. He was talking about retiring, so I said, I'd like to do your documentary. Never did a documentary before. We do small videos, but I knew I could do it. I felt confident I could do it, and I just wasn't gonna. There was no not doing it. So he was very reluctant. He's a very shy guy, and he just said, he goes, I'm not sure. And then I talked to their vice president, and she's like, you know what? Let me talk to his wife. I'll see if we can talk him into it. So they did. And, we spent another year making that documentary and we put that out as well. So it was our first full length movie that's it's out there now. And it was a great opportunity. I got to meet a lot of luminaries that gave their whole existence to Tom's training. I mean, they were like, the only reason I'm successful is through Tom's training and his books. So, and these are people that are multi-millionaires. There was actually 2 billionaires in it as well. And I was like, wow, I never realized this guy actually had that much impact on people. So it was very interesting.
That is incredible. What an incredible story. And it just goes to show, like, when you're following God and God's path for your life, you never know where you're going to end up and how He's
Yeah.
just going to fling those doors wide open.
Right.
That's an
Right.
incredible testimony, incredible story. So you're still writing and you're still moving forward with your mission. Can you tell us about some of your recent projects and writings?
Yeah, I actually have. I got quite a few books out. The last one I actually did with AI. It was a book that we wrote. Gosh, I wrote it in 3 weeks, and it was really just using AI and putting parts together, and then putting my 2 cents in it. And it's a podcast book. It's a business podcaster's handbook. That's the most recent book I have out. But the one that I've been really trying to help people with is it's called The Secret Online Door, and that's about negotiating and especially in our economy that we have right now. It's some simple techniques on how to negotiate anything with anybody, and these techniques will save you a tremendous amount of money. And they take a little courage to do. But if you do them, it could be as simple as 1 or 2, 3 words. You could save 50% on something. So, that's been my passion to really try to, help people with that book. So those are some of the things I've got going on right now.
Awesome. Now you have a website. Let me put your website up here.
Yeah, that
danportik.com.
that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And what can people expect to find on your website?
Website is kind of like the gauntlet to everything. So if you go there, you'll see the books, you'll see my companies, you'll see, everything about what I'm all about. And you can either order them. There's some free ones on there and some free training as well to learn about what I'm doing and some of the things I'm hopefully can benefit people with.
Awesome. Well, I love your mission. I love your story. I love how you're looking to empower people to grow in confidence, to grow in that empathy, to grow in learning how to just really connect, and also on the business side to save money, to grow your funds. And I think sometimes that's overlooked in at least where I live in the Christian communities.
Hmm.
Um, because it's like we're supposed to be humble and lowly, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but God also calls blessing, and He calls us all to different paths, and if we don't steward and invest well, how are we going to fund the kingdom, which takes resources?
Right.
So I think that what you're bringing with that is so powerful, that marketing and that marketplace aspect that I think
Mhm.
is overlooked in the Christian circles. And what is something, because I kind of want to go and speak to that a little bit, what is something that you would encourage somebody to say, yeah, isn't that just selfishness, to look to have more finances and material resources?
I'm sorry, I missed that last part. It kind of came through one
Sorry.
more time.
So we have like let's say we have a Christian brother or sister, and they say, isn't it just selfish for me to have more financial resources or material resources? Because we're called to be humble and lowly. Um, what
Well,
would you say?
yeah, you know what? In the Bible, there's many different people that are very wealthy that are strong believers in God, and some did well with it, some didn't do so well with it, but they all love God and they all cared about God, and so I think we're all put on this earth for a path, and we have a path. Our job is to find it and figure out what that might be. I've found if you put God in your life, no matter what happens, you you feel you land on your feet. You may have a lot of troubles and issues out there, but He's going to guide you. He'll nudge you in directions. I have found. As for the amount of wealth you have, people work for exactly what they feel they're worth and not a
Mhm.
penny more or a penny less. So, it's he put all that in us, he put that drive in us. We're made in his image. And so he knows what we're thinking. He knows what's happening. So, I'd say whatever you're doing, if it feels right deep down in your heart, it usually is, but there's that other side that, you go, if you hesitate, maybe you want to rethink it. But overall, if it feels right in your heart, it's usually something that he wants you to go that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. It goes down to that heart posture. So whether I have a little or whether I have a lot, I can have a little and still have that greed in my heart because I'm connected to those material resources. Or I can have a lot and I'm just letting God bless me so I can bless others and move it through and fund his kingdom.
Yeah,
And I'm not connected to it, I'm not holding on to it. And I think
right.
that it really goes down to the heart posture, not so much the actual possession and the amount of possessions.
Yeah, it's not money that's the root of all evil. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil, right? So, money's a tool. You just use it as a tool and or possessions, whatever it might be. You use them as tools on this earth to either help others or, give yourself more choices, I guess would be the easiest way to put it.
Absolutely. So on your website, you have educational resources, resources to help people learn to steward what they have so that they can grow, so they can be more of a blessing
Mhm.
uh, around them. Right. Okay, awesome. So go check out his website, danportik.com, DANPORTIK.com, and take advantage of his resources. Check out his books, check out his film production company. Sounds amazing. I love the journey that you're on. I just want to bless you in that. And don't forget to swipe, tap, or click over to DeborahHenne.com. Follow me on social on the X, Instagram, or Facebook at Deborah Henne Author. And let's not forget to tune into our thoughts to make sure they sound like Jesus's, so they sound like freedom.